How to tell what I did. Spanish 2, Unit 2.2, I can tell what I did. This tutorial should help you to create past tense verbs when talking about yourself. Here is a list of verbs in Spanish. You should notice that each of the following verbs ends in AR, ER, or IR. While we would not use this form every time we're speaking Spanish or every situation that we would need Spanish, there are uses that we would keep the verb exactly as you see it on the screen. For instance, if you're going to say, I like to do the action, I like to run, me gusta correr. If you were going to tell what I needed to do, you could say, necesitaba correr, I needed to run. If you're going to tell what I wanted to do, quería correr, I wanted to run. To tell what I had to do, tenía que correr. Another use would be to give advice. We've learned these phrases a couple of times in Spanish too. You should run, which would be debes correr. You need to run, necesitas correr. I recommend you run, te recomiendo correr. If you struggle with any of the above structures, you will need to get help from your teacher concerning those particular structures. Now we're going to talk about how to change from that list, the infinitive, to saying I actually did the action. Here's our list of verbs again. Do you remember how we had to change the verbs? Some of us are struggling with this. You can't just put the word yo, meaning I, and put it in front of the word caminar, to walk, and say I walked. You can't even put the word ayer, yo caminar. That would translate to I to walk, or yesterday I to walk. So we have to do something with this verb in order to convey that we did that action, or that I did that action rather. Here's our process to get from to do to I did. First, you're going to start with the verb in the infinitive form. This is the infinitive form when it ends in ER, AR, or IR. The infinitive form does not tell us who does, did, will do the action, nor when the doing of the action occurs or occurred or will occur. You're going to take off the AR, ER, or IR. Remember these verbs at the bottom of our list here that have the asterisks beside them? They don't follow the rules necessarily that we're going to discuss. And we will discuss those at the end of this tutorial. At this point, we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice, and it's going to depend on if we took off an AR, an ER, or an IR. Let's start with AR verbs. If our verb ended in an AR, then once we take off the AR, we're going to add back an E with an accent. Let's practice. So, hablar, we would take off the AR, and then we'd add back the E with an accent. So that would turn into hablé. Notice the pronunciation, hablé. That accent tells us to stress the end of the word. Another one, mirar, you would take off the AR, add back A with an accent. So that would turn into miré. Hablé means I talked. Miré means I watched. Now we'll look at ER or IR verbs. Correr, take off the ER. You're going to add back an I with an accent. That would turn this into corrí. Corrí means I ran. Escribir, take off the IR, add back an E with a Spanish E, the I with an accent, escribí. This form, each of these forms you see with the red accented letter at the end, means I did that action. Now we're going to see if you can follow the steps to create I did statements. Beber. How would you say I drank? You should have gone through this process and come up with bebí. How would you say I spent time? You should have followed this process to come up with pasé, and then we would add el rato at the end. How would you say I slept? You should have come up with dormí. How do you say I walked? You should have come up with caminé. How do you say I drew? You should have come up with dibujé. Ir, hacer, and jugar are next for us to discuss. These verbs are irregular, which means they don't exactly follow the rules. Now, these same verbs give us trouble in many tenses. We remember that we had issues with them in the present tense as well. So in this case, jugar, you are going to take off the AR and add back an E with an accent, but you're going to notice there is this U that's stuck in there. Now, just side note, this deals with pronunciation. Your brain is naturally going to come up with jugué when you say the word, but if you can imagine the U not being there and it was J-U-G-E with an accent, you would actually pronounce it jugué, and we need to maintain that hard G sound. So the U helps us do that, turns into jugué. So jugué means I played. Ir, totally irregular. We've been doing this quite a bit. Fui means I went. Notice it's an I at the end. Notice the pronunciation as well. Fui. And then our last one, hacer, will turn into hice. Remember the H is silent. Hice, and then we have la tarea at the end. So it is completely irregular. It doesn't follow the rules at all. Now you will move on to the next activity on your review paper.